So that's why you need to know when you're getting requirements, always ask how often does this operation run, how much your end user is depending on them. And finally, to two sets of specific, this is not an exhaustive list. I don't have all the time. What you can do is, like I told you, learn what these things mean and go and read about it. There's plenty of material on the internet for you to learn these. The virtual DOM. Like I told you, accessing the DOM on a browser is an I/O operation. What you really need to do is only change the parts of the screen that have changed. Don't re-render the whole thing over and over again. Virtual DOM or virtual DOM diffing is a technique that can do this. One of the pioneers is React.js, but I think the other frameworks like Angular, Ember, they're all coming into this. Then there's a technique called memoization, not to be confused with memorization. What memoization does is, if you have expensive operations, when that operation gets called repeatedly, this system checks whether the arguments that you provided into the function is the exact same. That means you have done that operation before. Why repeat it? Get it from a cache and give the results. That's memoization. And if you're working with browsers, you can delegate some of the work to web workers, so it's no longer single-threaded. Form of resource optimization is minification and compression. I think you know what these things are. In HTTP, you can use gzip for compression. There are plenty of minification libraries for you to use. And then, if your application is a rich mobile application or a web application, you will have so many assets: JavaScript, fonts, images, CSS. If you want to have HTTP requests to get each of these one at a time, that's going to slow things down. So what you really want to do is use an asset bundler. Maybe something like Webpack is very popular these days. You can use that to bundle all your JavaScript into a single file. Comes nicely in single request. That's on the client side, primarily. On the server side, if you're using a database, one thing you can do is you can use an in-memory key value storage like Redis. Most often used data sets, you can store it there. Or if you are using an interpreted language, you want to have something like the PHP op cache, if you're using PHP, or an equivalent thing in another language that you're using, so that you're not interpreting the same code over and over again each time you get a request. Or if you have a very I/O heavy and processor light application, you might consider Node.js because of non-blocking I/O. Or if you want to go really fast, you might choose a completely different technology stack, like Golang, or you can go to Java, or God forbid, if you want it to be even faster, you can go to C and C++. And of course, finally, database optimizations. You need to know about indexing. You need to know about what are the implications of having primary keys and foreign keys. Sometimes you have to go as far as denormalization. All these things are things that you need to learn about. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to explain all these things to you. You will have to do a well-placed Google search and find what these things are, right? But that said, sometimes, just sometimes, the solution needs to throw more hardware at it. Because in this day and age, hardware is cheap and developers are expensive. So it's up to you, once you have enough experience, to decide which way you want to go. This is a judgment call. I can't tell you what the right answer is. So that is my presentation. I hope I have managed to at least give you some insights about what I have learned over the past decade. I believe we are open for questions now. Okay then. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something. See you around.
Haste, remain on stage because we have a token of appreciation to give to you. So I invite Sandhu Nilanka, he's our GDG, one of our GDG organizers, to present you that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Haste. Okay, so next up, in our speakers lineup, we have a few Googlers here. I think two of them might have met you in the Code Labs. And we have our new country marketing consultant. He's Prashanthan Balakrishnan. And he's going to talk to you about innovative thinking. And I invite Prash to the stage to continue the speech.
This one, right? Good afternoon, guys. My name is Prash. I'm the Sri Lankan marketing consultant for Google. I'm the marketing consultant. My talk is not going to be very technical. I leave that to my more qualified peers. Instead, it's going to be about the importance of digital and innovative thinking. Okay, great. So my talk's titled Why Digital and Innovative Thinking Matters. And so despite all the challenges we have nowadays, we're actually digitizing very fast. There's a number of reasons for this. Our incomes are increasing. Data is becoming very cheap. We're actually one of the cheapest in the region. And then smartphones are becoming much cheaper. I think as low as 5,000 rupees, you can get a smartphone in Sri Lanka now. We have 6 million Sri Lankans online, about 20-25% smartphone penetration. That means about 5 million of our people access the internet on the smartphone. And that's exactly my second point, that the new generation of Sri Lankans are smartphone first. We use the internet in a much different way to the previous generation did. We pretty much are an always on internet access rather than on a needs basis. So this comment by Travis Kalanick, CEO of Uber, is very telling. It just shows you the pace of change nowadays. It took them 5 years to reach 1 billion trips, 6 months to reach the 2nd billion, and that was in July this year. I think they'll hit the 3rd billion very soon. So the internet and digital is no longer new, it's the now. As part of my role as marketing consultant, I have to tell a lot of companies to stop thinking of digital and internet as the new channel or the next big thing. It's very much a now thing, and they should pay as much attention to internet and digital as they do to their traditional TV campaigns. So yes, we've come so far. 6 million people online, another 14 million to get up there. And so for the next part of my talk, I'm going to talk about 3 trends that will profoundly impact the way that we do business in Sri Lanka and in the world in general. First is, we're not just digitizing, we're mobilizing. I mentioned 5 million people access the internet on their phones in Sri Lanka and a 5,000 rupee smartphone. What happens when that person uses that phone, he uses it for a year, he sells it on for 3,000 rupees. That number is just going to keep going up. And with this phone, we can do so much. I'm going on holiday on Friday, and just sitting at home on my phone, I booked my flight, my hotel, my tickets to the show, and I'll get there, I'll get my shopping done, sent to the hotel, I'll book my cab, take me everywhere I go, without speaking to a single person, all from my phone. So it's crucial that everyone realizes that it's going to be much of a mobile ecosystem rather than going back to PCs. Secondly, digital commerce is here in a big way. We're going to hit 4 trillion digital sales in 2020, And APAC is going to be accounting for about 3 trillion of that, sorry. And obviously, India and China are going to play the biggest chunk of that, but we're not being left behind. Earlier this year, we did an Auru the Megapolar, which is essentially the first online shopping festival in Sri Lanka. It was amazing, some of the stuff we found. We had 31% of shoppers who were there were doing their first e-commerce transaction for the first time. You know, we called them up and we found this out. Almost 40% of orders were from outside Colombo, all the way in Jaffna, Vaunia, Batticaloa. And these weren't just small transactions. People weren't just buying a memory stick or something. They were spending $74 on average, which is about 10,000 rupees. And we're going to do it bigger next year. So there's a lot of potential and we're really excited about this. So traditionally, when merchants look at advertising their products, they used to always think of what we call the first moment of truth and the second moment of truth. So you see an advertisement or you hear an advertisement, you have that in your mind. You go to a store and you see the product for the first time. That's your first moment of truth. You buy it, you go home, and you use it. That's your second moment of truth. But what digital has done now has brought it to a zero moment of truth. So you see the ad, or you read a paper, you hear the ad on the radio. What do? You pull out your phone, you research it. And that's really crucial. So we've been telling advertisers that they need to be here. Everyone it's just natural that we just pull out a phone. On that, roughly, we use our phone between 150 to 180 times a day. This is research and this is a global. Right, and then big data. There's so much data out there now. Everything's just collecting data about you, and then people are going to start sharing that information. And the challenge is, how do you use that information? I'm not sure if you guys know this very famous case study by Target in the US, which essentially used customer purchase data, and they figured out that there was a girl, or one of their customers, was pregnant even before her family knew it. They essentially just keep tracking the shopping that they did, and they realized that some things weren't bought, some things were being bought. And then they started realizing, and they sent her stuff like babies, they sent her vouchers, they sent her, diaper discounts. It was amazing, and that's exactly how we want people to start using big data. So, companies must succeed in creating transformation through technology, or they face destruction. So what does that mean for you guys? You have to be ahead of the curve. You have to sort of embrace that innovation and really ride it and be up there. So, a quick story then I'm going to talk about what Google did and how we sort of embrace innovation. We started out as search. Now we celebrated 18 years in September. We have 60,000 Googlers in 120 offices in 50 countries. And let me just sort of give you an idea of how big we are. We have over 1 billion searches each day, 1 billion people on Chrome, 4 billion views on YouTube, and about 1.5 million activations on Android each day. Sri Lanka alone, we have 4 million active users getting on YouTube each month. So when a company this big, the challenge is, how do you sort of sustain innovation, and how do you build a culture? So you can't force innovation. So what do? You sort of set up an ecosystem that encourages it. So our 6 principles of innovation: a healthy disregard for the impossible, innovation, not instant perfection, focus on the user, ideas come from everywhere, data, not opinions, and give people a license to pursue their dreams. So the first one, most importantly, have a healthy disregard for the impossible. You got to think big, 10 times, not 10%. And you got to have big goals. You got to completely break the mold. What does that do? It sort of encourages really great thinking. You're not going to just accept mediocrity. You're going to go and try and do something absolutely amazing. So in Google, we have what we call moonshot thinking. It essentially takes a big problem and then try and find a radical solution for it through breakthrough technology. I have a small video to share for you guys. Let me just play that.
actual moonshot is wonderful, inspirational, poetic, beautiful, involved great technical challenges, genuine heroism. It brought the world together. But think about the Polynesian islander on the dugout canoe, deciding one day they were going to go that way. No one had ever been that way before. No one even knew if there was anything that way before. It was amazing, and it changed the world.
People can set their minds to magical, seemingly impossible ideas, and then through science and technology, bring them to reality. And that then sets other people on fire, that other things that look impossible might be accomplishable.
Galileo is such a hero, you know, in thinking big, and what he represents to me is both curiosity and wonder that humanity had, that he had, that pushed him and drove himself to invent and work on the first telescopes that allowed us to see the moon, and here we are.
These aviation pioneers were figuring it out as they went. No one really knew how to build an airplane, right? No one knew how to fly an airplane. It was amazing and crazy and wonderful, and they wanted to explore.
Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said because it is there.
There's so many challenges in the world, and you could feel daunted by that, you know, and sort of oppressed by that, or you kind of say, how might we think differently about this?
Everyone else in the world is working on that next 10%. If you can be the one that delivers that 10 times improvement, you have a chance to really change things.
If you want cars to run at 50 miles per gallon, fine, you can retool your car a little bit. But if I tell you it has to run on a gallon of gas for 500 miles, you have to start over.
You need a lot of courage in this work, and you need a lot of persistence. One of the things that's really critical is not only having the courage to keep trying every day or thinking big, even if you don't really 100% believe it's possible, like you might think this might be possible, have the courage to try. That's how the greatest things have happened.
You don't spend your time being bothered that you can't teleport from here to Japan, because there's a part of you that thinks it's impossible. Moonshot thinking is choosing to be bothered by that.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Humanity's progress has been a series of amazing, audacious things, from the very small and personal up to the great, big, and grand. And we are a species of moonshots. And to me, that's like the really amazing, poetic, and inspirational thing.
I think our ambitions are a glass ceiling. What we can accomplish.
When you find your passion, you're unstoppable.
The balloon can't come fast enough, right? Okay. I'm going to switch over in the interest of time. Let's just... So, let me quickly just give you some examples of what we thought were moonshot problems and that Google tried to challenge. First is, how do you reach the unreachable? So we have 3 billion people connected. How do you reach the rest? How do you get to where the telecom towers don't reach? Then the other one is basically 1 million people are killed in accidents each year. And then productivity. How much productive? I mean, you guys live in Sri Lanka. We know how traffic is between 5 and 7 each day on a weekday. How much productivity is wasted there? Third, we have 400 million diabetics over the world, and that number is again increasing. How do you sort of do glucose monitoring without having to prick yourself multiple times each day? And then, sort of, you have your phone. You have, what next? So through our moonshot projects, we came up with, everyone knows about Loon, so I'm not going to talk about that. Chauffeur, again, the self-driving cars currently doing testing in Mountain View. Iris, essentially they miniaturize technology so much that it can fit into a regular size contact lens. And in addition to correcting your vision, it can also monitor your blood glucose levels. And then glass. Even though glass didn't probably take off the way it did, they're still working on it, and you keep reiterating until you get the perfect product. So that brings me to my next point. Innovation is not instant perfection, but you got to keep at it, and you got to keep doing it quickly. You got to launch, you got to keep changing, and you got to empower your teams, if you work in teams, to be nimble. Don't have a hierarchical system where decisions are only made by going up and then waiting for it to come down. You got to be really quick. And then in terms of your product, you got to focus on the user and not on the competition. And you will just focus on giving them that quality experience. I mean, when Gmail first launched, the reason all of us probably switched over from Hotmail was the fact that there was an unlimited mailbox. You didn't have to keep going back each day and deleting messages. So just show them the magic, and then they will follow. So how did we do that? We kept it simple. We started out, our search page has not changed much in the last 18 years. We made it relevant. Tarek spoke earlier about Assistant. I'm sure all of you guys have downloaded Allo and have used the Assistant. It's a pretty cool thing. And then I was going to show you a video on Google Home, but again, in the interest of time, let's skip it. You guys can YouTube it. It's a pretty cool video. Ideas from anywhere. Don't make it a top-down exercise. It should be top-down, bottom-up. Your uncle, your grandmother, your neighbor, anyone. Just ask them what would make life different, what would make their lives easier, and see how you could fix that. How can you, I don't know, revolutionize some product and give them the freedom to come up with these suggestions. Encourage it, incentivize it. And then use data. Use data to back up any thought that you have. If you think this is the way it should go, back it up with data. If it's not working, then yes, you have the data to prove it. Go a different way. But measure obsessively and encourage healthy debate. And the last one, give people license to pursue their dreams. I mean, people work harder when it's something they believe in and it's something they love. So let it be passion projects. And let people pick the projects that they work in and give them the opportunity to move internally. So, wrapping up. I'm sorry, I have one last slide. You guys would have heard about the 20% initiative at Google. And what it is, essentially, we encourage people to spend 20% of their time on special projects. And some of our most famous and successful projects have come out of the 20% initiative. So, wrapping up, I'd like to say is that innovation, again, can't be forced, but you just can encourage it. We don't have posters around the Google campuses talking about how innovation should be, and we don't have, this is the way you should do about it. But if you speak to 10 different Googlers, I have a colleague here from Philippines, he'll tell you the same. You get 10 different answers. But we're still a very innovative company, and what we do is we try and help people innovate, and we encourage them and give them direction to do so. So my last slide is, each of you, I want you to think about what is your moonshot. You've got to identify what's important to you. What does a moonshot look like for your industry, your team, and yourself? Once you find that, work for it, and work very hard for it. Ending off on a very corny line, but very apt for this. Shoot for the moon, guys. You'll fall upon the stars. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raj, for that. And to give our thanks to you, I would like to invite Pamudita, another one of our GDG organizers, to present you with this small gift. Oops. Okay, so next up, before moving into the next session, I have a small question for you. And if you know the answer, just raise your hands up. Don't shout it out. We have some gifts for you. So in the recent time, Google announces 2 mobile phones. What are they? Okay, you. With the glasses. Pixel and? Pixel XL, okay. Can we have a gift? Can you stand up? Can you have a clap? So I'll be asking more questions on the way. And next up, we have a speech from Mr. Harshadeva. and he's from Cambio Software Engineering, and he's gonna speak about how to hack the user experience. So that will be on efficiency, and I invite Harsha to continue the speech. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. So I heard that there are a lot of developers and a lot of techie guys here today. And every one of you have developed an app, right? At least have done something in a development project. So I know DevFest is all about development, how to increase the performance, how to avoid the pitfalls when you're developing something, and it's all about technology. But there's another thing that is important when it comes to apps, or when it comes to developing softwares or solving problems. One of the areas that we always miss as developers is user experience, right? So I'm going to explain some of the techniques that you can use when you're doing your next app. That will help you to develop a better app and become and make it usable for everybody. So when I entered the hall today, I asked a question from a friend of mine, and I asked, how do you build an app efficiently? So if I ask you, how do you build an efficiently, there will be a lot of different ways that you will explain this. So this guy explained to me that there is a process to this. He follows this process. What's that? First, you have to have an idea. Then you break down the idea into different parts or features, right? And then you describe each feature, what is the feature 1, what is the feature 2, and then you select what's the technology stack that you're going to use. If it's a mobile app, it's going to be different. If it's a web app, it's going to be different. So you have to select the best technology stack. Then you have to code. Then fix bugs after testing, then release. Simple 7-step process, right? So this is how a lot of people do it. Then I asked the same question from another person. How do you build an app more efficiently? So I said that there are 7 steps that one guy told me, and can you come up with a better way? So he said that there's a process to this. You don't come up with your own ideas and do stuff in a way you like. There's a standard process. So the step 1 is requirement analysis. This is what you learn in the university or school, right? And then systems design, implementation, testing. What's the next one? After testing? Any thoughts? Installation? Maintenance. Okay, so this is a kind of a standard way, right? So, okay, now I have two types of answers. So previous one was more casual, this one is more academic. So is this how we build apps today, more efficiently? So I asked another person, and he said, no, that's not how you do it now. Because this is what you call the waterfall way of developing apps, right? This is the old way. So what's the new way? That's the agile way, right? And there are different processes that you follow under agile, like Scrum and extreme programming and different stuff. So, okay, now I wanted to build an app efficiently. So I got 3 answers. So third one is agile, and people say that this is the way to build apps. So do you think that Google, Microsoft, Apple, and all these people build apps using or build apps the way that agile or these methodologies have suggested? Do you think that's the way they build it? So you have Google Hello app, you have the new Pixel phone, all those are products, all those solve problems. So do you think this is the way? So what's the answer? Answer is no. This is not the way you build an app. Yes, there are processes that you can follow, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to rephrase the problem. Now, being efficient is all about the end user, in my opinion. This is not only about the process. There can be hundreds of different processes that you learn in the school or university or from different people from the internet, but it's all about the end user. So today we are going to hack the user experience. In other words, I'm going to tell you some of the tools that we use to build apps. Like these tools are used all over the world by great product companies like Google and other big companies. So what's the magic formula? So we have different processes and different opinions. What's the formula? So I'm going to introduce a complete UX hacking toolkit that you can use, and it's free. Okay? So there are 3 areas that you can categorize all these tools and methods into. So the first area is understand. So the goal is to understand the end user first. Okay? The second one is to brainstorm. Okay? Everybody knows what's brainstorming, right? Why do you brainstorm? Because after you understand the end user, you have to brainstorm and come up with multiple solutions. So the problem with developing apps in the old way is you find a problem and then you develop a solution. That's one single solution. So the problem with one single solution is once you go to the market, that solution may not be the best solution because you didn't have multiple solutions. You didn't think about that. So you put all your money and time and everything into this one solution and you released it to the market, but it failed. So that's why you have to brainstorm and come up with multiple solutions. Third one is experiment. So this is what we don't do a lot. We must do this a lot. You have to experiment a lot. After you come up with different solutions, you have to experiment with each of the solution and find the best. Okay, so we will go into 3 different areas and find out what they are. First one, understand the user, the end user. So there are 2 key things that I found under understand. First one is identify personas. Okay. Second one is create empathy maps. So what are these? Personas and empathy maps. First one. What's a persona? it's like this, a template for persona. If somebody asks you what's a persona, I can show this. This is a template for a persona. What happens is, now let's say that you are going to develop the Uber app for the first time, okay? Assume that Uber is not here, so you're going to do it. So if you think about Uber, there are two types of users, right? What are the two types of users that Uber has? The rider and the driver, right? Only two. So if you develop this app, so in the traditional way, there are two user roles. One is the rider, the other one is the driver. So you can, when you describe it, you can say the rider logs into the app, and then he selects the location and clicks on a button, and then the vehicle arrives, something like that. And then the driver's app is also like that. But the problem is there will be a lot of different users who will be using your app. Yes, they might be using your app as a driver or a rider, but if you are a driver, there can be different types of driver. There can be a driver who's like 50 years old and who's doing this for as a second job. There can be a full-time driver. There can be a software engineer who's like using Uber for fun. I mean, joining as a driver for fun. So you get different types of users in your big bucket of this user role. So using this persona template, what you do is you identify common users and create a fictional character. So this is one of the examples that I, of course, took from the internet. And the name is Ellen. You have to give a name to the persona. So Ellen is married, housewife, 44 years old, the location, and the tech, is this person techie? Is this person digital oriented? Is this person demanding information? So different characteristics of this person. And what are the hobbies? So you create this fictional character, and then you can create multiple personas. You have to create multiple personas. So this is another persona. So is Sandy, single, student, 19 years old. So these two people can be two different drivers, but they will log in to your app as a driver. But these are two different kind of people. Okay? So next time you're going to build your app, first do some user research, talk to different people, get in there, and identify who are the different users who are going to use this system, and come up with different personas. You can put localized names, like you can put singular names or any name that you like, and create. It's important to have a photo, because then you connect. So when there's an error or when there's a design problem that comes in, even if you're a developer, so you have to think in terms of Sandy. What would Sandy do in this scenario? Not what would the rider do in this scenario. So think in terms of personas, not in terms of user roles. That's the idea. Second one, you have to create an empathy map. So this is a template to create an empathy map. So what happens is you go and do different types of research, right? So how do you do research? You go and talk to different people. You interview people, you observe people, and you read newspapers, you read from internet. So then you find out, okay, there are different types of users. And if you take Sandy, okay, you get Sandy, and then you try to fill these areas. What Sandy would say, what Sandy thinks, what Sandy feels, and what Sandy does. So using the empathy map, you can clearly define what this person, the profile of the person with regard to your solution. So under what Sandy says, when you're talking, she will be using different words. Like she will be saying that work-life balance is important for me. I enjoy stuff. So those are key points that you can take from that person. So she always speaks about those stuff. Then what are her beliefs? Beliefs in religion, beliefs in equal rights. So you profile this person in different ways. What are the behaviors? She always takes notes. She researches using mobile. She always uses mobile to research. And if you replace this person with another person, the previous example, Ellen, she won't be using the mobile much. So you get different people into this format. So now you have understood your personas, you have understood the empathy maps. So if I explain what is empathy, empathy is you think in terms of that person. You become that person and being empathy for them. Okay, now we have understood your users, the end user. Now we have to brainstorm. Okay? So how do you brainstorm? You have to brainstorm multiple solutions, not one solution. There are two ways. There are multiple, actually there are maybe hundreds of ways, but these are the main two things that I found interesting for you as developers. There can be like a lot of other tools that you can use, methods and tools, but when you're a developer, you don't have to do everything. So as a developer, you should know these are the stuff that you can do as a developer when you're designing your own app or when you're working for somewhere else, something else. So first one is Sketch. So Sketch looks like this. So what you do is, you have done all your research. Now you have to come up with different solutions. So if I ask you what is brainstorming, what everybody thinks is brainstorming is about thinking, coming up with different ideas and keeping inside the head. No. Brainstorming is about thinking and putting it on a paper or putting it on a board, on a post-it. So that if you don't download what's in your head to some kind of a material format, your thinking will die inside your brain. So what happens is you have to sketch a lot. You have to sketch your ideas, you have to sketch your designs, you have to sketch your problems, everything. Put it down on papers and paste it on the wall. So that you always, when you always see that, you can see there are gaps, there will be a lot of other ideas, and you can incorporate them. Then there's a new something unfamiliar, Crazy Eights. It's not anything about going crazy and going in a bike, trying to do eights or something. It's about this. It's just another sketching method. What you do is, now you have all the ideas in your board, and what happens is people are always trying to think in one idea. I mean, when you get an idea, you tend to think about that idea only. So to get people from one idea to multiple ideas, or to stop people thinking in one solution, to make them think about alternative solutions, you can do Crazy Eights. What you do is you get a piece of paper, fold it in a way that you will get 8 boxes, right? Fold it in 3 and 2, you get 8 boxes. So you have 8 minutes. What you do is you can do this as a group activity, but you have to do it alone as a group, but activity is an individual activity. So get 8 boxes. You have 8 minutes. You have to draw or you have to explain or draw your solution in 8 different ways. Same solution in 8 different ways. So for an example, if I take a simple login scenario, there can be 8 different ways that people can log into your application. The simplest one is you get the username and password and login, right? That comes in the first one. The second one would be you have Facebook Connect or Google Plus Connect and you can log in. Third one could be you use an Android Wear or Apple Watch and you are automatically logged in. You don't have to do anything. So that's the third one. So fourth one, your app uses face recognition, recognizes you and auto logs. So there can be different ways that you can implement the same functionality. But if you don't do this, you are confined to your own single solution. So you do this to make it easier for you to brainstorm, come up with different solutions for the same problem. Okay, so now you have brainstorm. You have multiple solutions. Now what you do? You have to experiment, right? So you don't know whether this will work or not. Now we have gone through the identifying users, you have brainstormed multiple solutions, now you have to test it out. So how do you test it? So how do you experiment? There are 4 things that I found interesting. One is to create storyboards. I'll tell you what are storyboards. Then you have to prototype. You know what is prototyping, obviously. You can do 4-quadrant test. It's a way of testing. And also you can do A/B testing. Some of you might have already done it or heard about it. We'll go one by one. So what is storyboarding? Very simple. It looks like that. If you take Uber app, so if you are a developer or let's say any professional who's coming from IT background, if I talk about an app, what you get in the mind is the features of the app, right? Like Uber you can register, you can order or you can book a cab or something, then you can leave feedback, then you can see the history of trips. So those are the features that you get, right? So if I ask you, how would the user use this app, you will say, okay, when you have this app, you use these different types of features. If somebody asks you, what's your app? He will say, list down the features. The problem is, we are so feature-minded that you lose the whole story of the person. The catch is to find the total workflow from the person knowing about there's an app called Uber till the end of the life cycle. So you have to, even though you don't have control over all the others, you have to come up with a storyboard which explains from the day or from the moment that person got to know about this app to the end. So there can be multiple storyboards. You can't do the whole story in one board. There can be multiple scenarios. There can be multiple storyboards. So for an example, the Uber app. Let's say I didn't know what is Uber, so I just missed my staff bus. So I'm actually thinking how to go to office. So then there's a friend of mine who will say, why didn't you order an Uber? So then I get to know, okay, there's something called Uber. What is it? Then he says, so you can go to the app store and download it, the Uber app. And then you go and download it. And then you register. So like that. So as a developer, normally when you're building apps, you don't think about that scenario, right? You just think about your app and the features. Somebody has to take care of the whole thing. So who's going to take care of the whole thing? Nobody's going to take care of it. You have to think about it. So this is the way to think about it. So then maybe you can change the way that people download your app. Maybe you can do some better marketing to make the app easily penetrate into the market. Maybe you can incorporate new features that you didn't think of if you did the app in a different way, an old way. So come up with different storyboards. You don't have to draw like this. You don't have to be you don't have to be artistic. You can draw using stick figures or anything. You just have to have different boxes, and each box will explain what is the situation. So the first box in my example would be a person who has missed the bus, waiting or thinking about what to do. And the next box would be a friend coming and asking what happened, order an Uber or something. So maybe you might think, okay, can there be a way that this person, the person who has Uber app, transfer the app or quickly install the app to the other person without him going and searching about Uber and then downloading? Because there can be multiple Uber-like apps. You don't have to make other apps get installed into this person. So you can think about different ways, and you can actually make your app better. There can be very simple things. Fine. So the next one is prototyping. So what is prototyping? Prototyping is like you fake it, right? You fake the whole thing. You don't have the real app. You build your interfaces that will look like the real one, and you can show it to users and get feedback. But there are two types of prototyping that you can do. First type is low fidelity prototyping. Second one is high fidelity. So what's low fidelity? That means you can use, everybody knows it's fake in low fidelity. What you use is you use very low, like pencil drawings, like sketches, but it works. I mean, you can click on buttons, you can have gestures, and it works. You show the workflow. But in high fidelity, the user might not feel that it's a prototype. It's very real-like experience. So these are two different prototypes. I mean, same app. This is low fidelity and that is high fidelity. You can see the difference, right? So everything here looks like very, very low level. I mean, the buttons are not applying the correct styling. It's just the indication that, okay, this is a button, this is a slider. So it's okay. You can work on this and you can get the approval, or you can just ask your friends to use this and see whether it works or not. So there are multiple tools that you can use to create low fidelity or high fidelity prototypes. So if you just search on Google, you can find what are the prototyping tools that you can use. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay. There's another low and high fidelity prototype comparison. It's a website, and you can see this is low and that's high. Okay, so the idea here is to do a lot of prototyping. Do a lot of prototyping and let others use. You don't have to show your prototypes to like hundreds of people. They say that it's like if you let 5 people to use your app, just 5 people to use your app, you will get more than 70% of the feedback that you will get from maybe a million users. Because 5 people can represent a lot of people. More than 50% is enough, right? So you can reduce the number of bugs you get. So do a prototype and show it to your friends, family, and anybody who are going to use this product, and get the feedback. And 4-quadrant test. What's that? This is actually a way to get the feedback. Now you have done your prototype, now you have to get the feedback, right? So don't go and just show the prototype and ask, okay, what do you think about it? And if he says, okay, good, and then just, okay, he said good, okay, my app is good. Not like that. You have to collect the feedback in a proper way so that you can improve your app. It's not like asking people and watching them using the prototype. It's about how to collect the feedback correctly and incorporate the good things and remove the bad things. So you have a kind of a quadrant where in this section, the top left corner, you describe the likes. What did he like about this app? Then what did he dislike? What are the new questions that arose from this? And what are the new ideas that you got? So this is a simple, very simple way. You don't have to do a very big documentation. Just go in point form. And whenever you show the app, maybe in your mind, just try to collect this feedback and write it down. So that next time, you can collect all this and make the app better. Okay? So the last one, the A/B test. So I think this is very, very common. This is a very common thing that a UX people do. What you do is, now, it's better if you can do it with high fidelity prototyping or actual release. It's a beta release.